I've had some bad neighbors before. Uh, Actually, on par with this dude, but I wasn't living in an apartment building, so it made it a bit easier not having to deal with a racist, bigoted neighbor all the time.
After an I-team investigation showed you how a year of calls to 911 failed to produce relief from a nightmare neighbor in Brooklyn. Black tenants in the Ebbetsfield apartments subjected to butcher knives, racist threats, and police say possibly even a fatal fire. The neighbor still lives there, and tonight you'll see police are paying closer attention. We've learned the Brooklyn District Attorney has opened a new hate crimes investigation. This after our Melissa Russo started asking why that hadn't happened already.
You needed all these cops just for me.
After a year of begging police for help, Steve Adonazzo's neighbors felt the NYPD's latest response finally matched the urgency of the situation.
You got the whole precinct here.
On Friday, more than a dozen police responded with riot gear and a mental health worker
I hear you.
to arrest Adonazzo on a 2-month-old warrant and take him for a psychiatric evaluation.
The guy's fighting a nuclear war.
Adonazzo's black neighbors thought this might actually be the end of their nightmare. They say since last summer, they've endured Adonazzo's racist threats,
I'm gonna kill you.
scrawling of racial slurs on his door, slamming their doors with hammers, waving butcher knives at them, and his endless screaming.
I know most right-wingers will look at that guy and be like, yeah, that's my hero. I want to drink, I want to get a drink with him because they love seeing people be racist like them because they're racist and they can relate.
F you, I'm gonna kill you. Excuse me. But, you know, it's hard.
But after his arrest on Friday and an unusually quiet weekend on the 11th floor, yesterday, in walked Adonazzo, released by the hospital and by a judge in Brooklyn court, where he faces weapons charges related to knives. If that doesn't sound scary enough for his neighbors, consider this. The NYPD says Adonazzo is their main suspect in a fatal arson on his floor. Investigators say they suspect Adonazzo, back in April, set fire to a mattress they believe came from inside his apartment. But they insist so far there's not enough evidence to charge Adonazzo with the arson, despite a recording neighbors turned over to investigators of him saying this 3 days before the fire.
Black people, we're gonna burn you. You guys are really brown. When we get done with you, you'll be black.
We've tried.
So, yeah, he set a fire to try to kill people. This guy needs to be put in security max prison and live there for the rest of his life. This guy is a danger to society, and anybody like this guy needs to be put in prison.
Repeatedly to reach Adonazzo for comment, and the legal aid attorney assigned to represent him on a weapons charge has declined to comment. But on video Friday, Adonazzo told police he did not set the fire. After the I-team exposed the situation in Ebbetsfield apartments and the city's failure to provide relief, the Adams administration and the Brooklyn DA said they were taking a closer look at the case.
Now they let everybody know it's a joke.
During a visit from detectives last week, some tenants expressed frustration that it took an I-team story to get the case moving.
Ms. Russo did the story because, because nobody was paying attention. So she put it on NBC. Now everybody's paying attention.
In a statement,
Yeah, because the cops didn't care until they were forced to care by the news team saying, hey, why is this happening, and why aren't the cops doing anything about it? It's sad that cops have to be motivated by other people forcing them to do something.
the NYPD said this remains an active and ongoing investigation. Detectives will chase down every lead and work with our prosecutorial partners to successfully bring closure for all involved. But so far, despite that new attention, Adonazzo is still right down the hall, taking down signs that ask witnesses to come forward and pointing knives at neighbors' doors.
They call me the man this on the 11th floor.
To hold a person for more than 72 hours in a psychiatric hospital, they must have a diagnosed mental illness and be considered a risk to themselves or others. We do not know the reason.
Yeah, he's a risk to others. He's threatening people, he's brandishing weapons, he's starting fires. Put this guy in, hold this guy, or just put him in prison.
Reasons behind the decision to release Mr. Addonazo, nor whether the doctors evaluating him over the weekend were aware of the full history. Mayor Adams and Governor Hochul have promised to keep risky people in psychiatric hospitals longer instead of releasing them. Because this was not Addonazo's first hospital visit, nor his first arrest, he accurately predicted that he would quickly be back at home, something his neighbors say infuriates them.
Wow, it's messed up how this bigot gets to do this continually. Just gets to walk out of jail, nothing happens. And you have innocent, black people doing nothing wrong, and then here comes the cops to, to shoot him dead.
Mr. Addonazo has failed several times to show up for appearances in criminal court on those weapons charges and in housing court, where his landlord is also trying to evict him. Transcripts from yesterday's court appearance show the judge in the weapons case did release him, but ordered some supervision to ensure that he returns to court. And while that new hate crime investigation by the Brooklyn DA is moving forward, the arson and homicide investigation still appears stalled.